26. It's 11:36 p.m. Okay, so not too bad. What's really bad is that it's 2,190 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room there on Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas, because he was a whistleblower, because he was a hero of national significance, and he submitted reports about all of the trafficking going around at the borderland and on post, and you name it, it was trafficked. Um, if it wasn't bolted down, and now, of course, it includes 500,000 children being trafficked at the border. Of course, organ harvesting, of course, the Fast and Furious and the Iran Contra, just, you know, uh, years later, still going, still going. So the arms and the drugs and all of that, um, the ammunition, and then, of course, now the fuel theft. This is just a very criminal area, and and it was on Fort Bliss. It was infiltrated in the system. They were absolutely using taxpayer-funded infrastructure to do their criminal activity, and made alliances then with the Mexican cartel to form terroristic organizations that are, you can't even say they're foreign terroristic organizations anymore. That's not enough. And President Trump and his administration absolutely uh, designated them properly as specially designated terroristic organizations. And because they're just terrorizing people everywhere at the funeral. You can't even have a funeral right now without really watching out that fraud isn't taking place. You have children being targeted. You have your own organs, people's organs being targeted, so that you can't even trust the medical establishment to be doing the right thing. You have our military being targeted to be exploited. You have the drugs, the community being targeted with illicit drugs and high price fuel, right? So that their businesses are targeted, their uh, family wealth is targeted. When you are controlling the fuel prices, when you're exploiting the fuel prices, when you're stealing fuel, um, it is a crime against humanity, right? It's a crime against humanity, and it involves so many other violations. And I was just looking through, like, the uh, oil companies and refineries and everything along the border land and their history of violations. And it is just stunning. It is so stunning how much damage that they've done. And so, rightfully so, they're being arrested left and right. These, the easy gotten ones, the ones that are absolutely stealing the fuel. What for $10, $15 a barrel? I told you that for a long time it cost about 10 cents. Um, to get a barrel of oil out of the ground, that the ground makes it this whole narrative, that it is, a, what do you call it? It'll come to me. that it's a scarcity, right? That it is a product of scarcity. It is not scarce. Oil comes out of the ground, y'all. The ground makes it. And it's amazing. It's totally amazing. When you read about it, just do a little research how many barrels of oil comes out of the ground a day, and it just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going because it's renewable. It's kind of like trees growing in that the earth makes it for us, and it costs very little to get it out of the ground per barrel. And now you see that the stolen fuel, they were selling for $10, $15 a barrel. And then, where it on the market, it sells for 80. So, they're getting uh, and then of course, when you buy a lot of it, you get a discount, right? And they were making huge, huge profits, and then selling it to us, the refineries, and then to us, um, for these regular costs. And gosh, it's so evil. It's so evil, especially when they're squeezing, trying to manipulate the price of oil. Uh, you know, all the theft is manipulating the price of oil, right? And then they charge us these high prices of oil, the very people that are stealing the oil. So it's just yeah, it is really very, very criminal. And it's not like a victimless crime. It is not at all. There's so many victims when you're talking about fuel, right? When you're talking about fuel. So let's get started because this whole thing. If Sorry, I'm gonna turn that down now. Thank you, Laura, for coming on. Um, so more and more information is coming out that is corroborating what we have been saying for a long time, that there is a huge, huge possibility, huge, I'm almost certain, that they were stealing fuel off of Fort Bliss. Okay. Because if they're going to steal Pemex, if they're going to steal I just um, wrote it down. Permium. I hope I'm spelling that right. Here it is. I'm going to show you so this is the basin right here. This is this huge oil fill, and they extract the oil from all this area, and it's huge, right? I mean, I lived in this area, Fort Hood. I lived here, I know Texas. I even lived in this area. Um, so and I visited up here. I mean, I know Texas really well. I drove all over Texas, hours and hours and hours all over Texas, growing up and everything. I love Texas. Um, and just huge, and a lot of oil. A lot of oil. And then to find out all of the checks and balances to keep people honest have been breached, and now we have just a bunch of oil thieves, and that it's crossed over the border, and now you have Pemex being stolen from this uh, Permian. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Um, a basin area being stolen from, and there's more, right? There's more. The fuel that's on Fort Bliss stolen. Um, and on and on. This Eagle Ford, this is also oil. Anyway, um, and yeah, so I put in this New Mexico map to kind of show you uh, what's going on here. I think it's really important to see it. We're learning it, even though we've lived in Texas for years and years. Um, it's just such a big state. So let's get started and we'll talk about it because people need to know about Richard, about why we're doing this day in and day out, because we want our son's remains. Um, Richard, being a distinguished honor graduate, the guidon bearer, making rank very quickly, being the whistleblower for this cartel infiltration with the El Paso cartel, um, uh, you know, having these specially designated terroristic organizations that have just made, attacked, targeted the Mexican sovereignty and the United States sovereignty, feeling like they can, just rule that whole area the way they want to with their um orky, uh, greedy, uh, thieving, murdering, trafficking ways about them. And to cover it up, right? To cover it up and not have to pay the price for all of their crimes that they've done. And thinking that, they're above the law, or that they're not even part of the United States or part of Mexico, that they could just be their own little colony, I guess. Um, yeah, it's really disgusting, and so now they're being held accountable. We had 14 arrests. 6 of them have pled guilty already. And then, of course, you had 4 more out of Carlsbad that is connected to the same Mormon mafia that was doing the Wachical fiscal, crossing the border, doing the fuel theft. So you have 3 in the same area, right? And then you have the history of Western refining and their fuel theft. And of course, you have all of the reported problems with De La Vega Foster, Alejandra De La Vega Foster, and her gas stations. And uh, that was reported. So, and it just happens that her husband is, Western Refinery, and that he sold it to Marathon, where he then, well, went to Endeavor, and Endeavor went to Marathon, and he just happened to buy controlling stocks of that. Um, it is, it's very obvious that they are entrenched with, of course, William Sanders. William Sanders is the father-in-law of Beto O'Rourke, okay? And he is very entrenched with Chihuahua. Matter of fact, his family history goes way back to Chihuahua. Matter of fact, his family got kicked out of Chihuahua, Mexico, and then he came back. Um, I hope they kick him out again, but anyway, he's in right there at the border. Uh, his land holdings in New Mexico, or yeah, land holdings, I think it's in New Mexico, is as big as like Iowa. I mean, it's huge. He has huge land holdings. Um, and maybe that includes from other areas, right, in Texas too, and that in Arizona. So, and he is very, because it started out like, his family started out with cottonseed oil fuel, but of course now he was uh, with Paul Foster on the board of Western Refining. They worked together, right? They shared address together. Um, and Beto O'Rourke's rise into politics was funded by this fuel business. Um, and, the evidence shows that they're up to no good, right? That they're up to no good everywhere they go. And to be right there with the money laundering king, right? Jeffrey Epstein. Why would you need to be involved with Jeffrey Epstein for huge amounts of money laundering unless you were um, money laundering huge amounts of money, right? So where did that come from? And when you're in the oil business, I think that that is very clear. The connections, of course, um, the voting that Beto O'Rourke did to open up the regulations that were there to protect people from this kind of oil theft and watchable fiscal and all of that. And, it's very clear that they wanted control of politics because they wanted to keep exploiting the oil and exploiting the people and destroying people by overcharging them for oil, for the fuel that they use. Um, eh, it's very clear. The evidence shows it's not something I'm making up. And now it's all being exposed with all the connections. When you look into the 14 individuals that were arrested, when you look into the 4 people that were arrested, when you look into the Judson family, the Maxwell Judson family, and you look at all their connections, the point that I'm really want to make is that you cannot come into that area, okay, when you are so dug in, when the establishment is so dug in, you cannot have some kind of outsider coming in and then starting to operate a fuel thieving business, okay? A watchable business, a watchable fiscal business. You think that when you are a big land holder like William Sanders is all along the border, when you are a big oil refinery like uh, Paul Foster, when you have lots of gas stations like Alejandro de la Vega Foster, when you have a bank, Westar Bank, with Woody Hunt and Paul Foster, and when you're so established, you think you're going to allow someone else to steal fuel? You're going to allow anyone to steal fuel? I don't think so. I don't think not when you have control over the politics, not when you have control over the law enforcement, not when you have control over the judicial system, and not when you have control over Fort Bliss. You are, and when you're in alliance, because it's been confirmed, this is not something that I'm guessing. This is confirmed that Alejandro de la Vega Foster is totally in alliance and tied with the CJNG cartel. And so is Beto O'Rourke. He employed La Diabla's family. Um, this is Alejandro de la Vega went into alliance with Maru Campos, the governor of Chihuahua, who is confirmed to be El Chapo's proxy. Okay, so that makes it even more unlikely that anybody could come into their turf and just steal fuel. You think the Jetsons can just come in there and still fuel without an alliance, a payback, a whatever, with this established cartel, El Paso cartel, CJNG, Sinaloa, Juarez cartel, that's why Jetsons paid what for over 40,000 dollars to the CJNG. And the CJNG cartel is totally in alliance with Alejandro de la Vega Foster. Okay? It it is just, I mean, it is in writing. It is totally confirmed. So, they're not going to allow anybody to come into this oil rich area where they have established for decades and decades their oil business, okay, and let people come in there and steal fuel. All right, it's not going to happen. They know the fuel trucking, they know the fuel trains, they know everything going on with the storage of fuel. So, what am I saying? I'm saying that these arrests are connected to these individuals. There's no doubt in my mind. There's no doubt in my mind that the Mormon Mafia is a part of the Jensens, part of Connell Wetton, part of the El Paso cartel, in alliance with the specially designated terroristic organizations like the Juarez cartel, the CJNG, and the Sinaloa cartel. And that President Trump has absolutely, with um, a lot of planning, a strategic method of stopping this terroristic organization at the border that has been stealing fuel, exploiting the people, exploiting the system, exploiting our military. These individuals they were leasing US government property in order to store this stolen fuel. Okay? Go read it. It's in writing. You can go and look it up. The 14, 6 of them now have pled guilty. And this is, you just don't get a lease of government property in that area that is so controlled by these cartels, these bullies, these mobsters, these Mormon mafia. So so you can understand why they were so mad at Richard. So mad at Richard because here he is, you know, um, not corruptible. And, reporting them. Their worst nightmare for a U.S. Army stellar soldier to report what they're doing. What do you mean we can't corrupt them? What do you mean we can't compromise them? And they put in a lot of effort to do it. A lot of effort. And that's why we received not one, but two letters from President Trump, and there's a real problem that needs to be fixed. And that problem is that we need Richard's remains. We cannot, I mean, of course, the mother part of me, I want my son's remains. You have all these other repatriations. You have a military that has all kinds of power. I want my son's remains. And, it's hard for us to understand why there hasn't been an order for an operation. Let's go get Richard Halliday's remains. If he is indelible, if he is a national, a hero of national significance, let's go get his remains. And I think that we're there. We are there. And so I think that that needs to happen. But for talking as a patriot, as an American, we absolutely have to do it. Because the cartel cannot infiltrate our military installation and traffic, exploit it, steal, traffic on it, 500,000 children, bring in the drugs, compromise our generals, which they are all compromised. During 2020, they were all, I used to say it and they would get so mad at me. I'd say 44 four-star generals, not one was honorable. Not one. Nope. And why did we need 44 four-star generals? Why did we need that? During World War II, when we had 10 times the size of the military and a lot less ways and communication, we only had seven generals. Why do we have to have 44 with a much smaller force? To me, that is exploitation. I said it, and then not one of them, not one of 44 is honorable, is a patriot. They're all compromised. And they were. They were all compromised. Now, today, I don't know. I don't know. But at that time, in 2020, it was a disgust. And I think the 2024 election was just in the nick of time. It was divine because we had just about, by the hair of our chinny chin chin, lost our military. And so, because of that, Richard's remains must be repatriated. There has to be absolutely a public outcry. Absolutely. By our leadership. So, and I think that look at this fuel theft. How many people have been hurt by that? Because all the other trafficking is financed by that. And then the money laundering, because of the fuel theft, there is a need to money launder. And money laundering causes, Why do you think they have the strip joints? Why do you think they have the funeral fraud? Why do you think they have, um, all the other things that are, that that are up to no good? The the flipping and flopping of all this property that creates housing prices so high. And now you've got people that they don't want the value of their property to go low because then they'll be in the hole and it's so terrible for, those people. But then you have young people that want a place to live and they're supposed to, my mother's German, my grandmother's German, and they want you to pay these enormous prices for Papadeckel. That's what my Oma used to say for Papadeckel, which is cardboard, right? They want you to pay for shoddy um, building. They want you to pay these big prices, and overpriced. So, and then young people, and I know it's a long time ago, and I'm talking about my grandfather in Portland, Oregon, in the middle of a city, and they used to have this such a nice house, right? This beautiful, nice house on Graham Street. It was almost like a gingerbread house on the outside, and the road was the neighborhood was so when I was a kid, it was just so nice. And of course, Portland, Oregon is known for its roses, so you had the most beautiful roses everywhere, rose gardens everywhere. On my grandparents' street, and as time went by, just the leadership got so bad, and the neighborhood went really down. And matter of fact, a gun went off and even went into my grandparents' house. And, the street, you could see hookers walking, I mean, it just went from this rose garden to a mess. So it makes a huge difference, um, the leadership. But my grandfather was so proud of his house, because he was very young. He came from Germany because he didn't want to join the party, the Dritte Reich, and he came through Ellis Island, and then the war started, and he had to be in the camp for 3 years, in the prison camp. For it was like a prison, well, it was like a prison camp, but he was in the camp with the Japanese for 3 years during the war. Went back to Portland, Oregon. He worked, and he bought this house. He was so proud because he went to work for a furniture factory there, and was saving money and bought this house for $3,000. For $3,000. I know it was a long time ago, but $3,000. But he could do it as a young man, as a young immigrant man, right? As a young immigrant man. How many young immigrant men can say, I'm going to not be a criminal, right? I'm going to be legal. I'm not going to be criminal. And I'm going to work hard. And even if I go through hard times, like being put in a camp for 3 years during a war, a world war, I'm going to come out of it and buy me a house, a nice house, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, upstairs, downstairs, with a garden, right? Um, that I can raise my family in, right? That would last. I mean, it lasted his whole life. His whole life he was living there. Um, this is what money laundering does. It manipulates the markets, the prices of things, including houses, and so destroys the middle class. And so the point that I'm trying to make is that this is not a victimless crime that the oil thieves have done. It's a huge crime. And part of that crime is this funeral fraud, which is sacrilegious. And today there was an interview released of Unique Green, this man that is absolutely, I'm sorry, I'm just going to play it and you tell me that no license for years. For years. It's a disgust. Using U-Hauls to, I mean, this person that I'm about to show you was given a $716,000 Harris County contract. It is absolutely no way in the world. No way that this person would get a $716,000 contract by the county without major strings attached for money laundering. There's just no way. And this, so let's watch it. Let's watch it. And you tell me that without having a license, and then it being removed after a year because this person, this monster, this is a monster, was using U-Hauls to drag dead bodies around, renting U-Hauls, and having Home Depot buckets full of organs, human organs. And if the media, who are liars, who are manipulators, are telling us this much, and they did in this video, give us a hint that this is a man. This is a man. But tried to manipulate it. Someone that is so monstrous, and they tried to manipulate it to go along with this monster. I just, they need to be fined. The media needs to be fined. Because this Michael Green, whatever monster he is, they need to say it. They need to tell the truth. So let's watch it. Once you watch it, maybe you can sympathize with me. Here we go. And I only can play a small part because, let me see what part I can play.
Used to answer our team's questions after court today. Unique Green went before a judge for the first time on charges of theft, tampering with a government record, and forgery. 13 Investigates' Micah Hatfield joins us live with the shocking answers she got out of that suspect today.
Yeah, so just to let you know, this is really what we've been saying for
Gina, investigators
for a long time, that with the Plenitude crematorium, you had 400 bodies, okay? In Colorado, there was about 200 bodies. This means forgery of death certificates, of cause and manner of death. So, in order to pull this off, you have to have the county clerk forging, you have to forge, they have to forge, and then the medical examiner has to forge. There is so much involved in pulling this kind of fraud off. And then, of course, this monster then gets a $716,000 contract from the Harris County, and then that should tell you something, and that this is a ring, this is a network. This is not just this monstrous individual lone actor like they wanted to do Patrick Crusius, the lone shooter. No, to pull off the Walmart mass shooting, and of course, 7 years is coming up. You have to have a network in order to do it. You can't have someone that doesn't even know how to tie their shoe. You can't have someone that is blind without their glasses. You can't have someone that's blind without their glasses, can't tie their shoe, never trained with a weapon, and then pull off something like the Walmart mass shooting, you know, and then all the discrepancies. And of course, we know what was going on in the courthouse now, with the tampering of the assignment will to control the judges and the lawyers and all of that, to create this network by really putting the fear of losing your career out there to get them to go along with this, and it being political. This is the same thing, same operation there. And look at the media. Eh, they are afraid of losing their job, and the way they present this, it for the media, it's pretty tough, but not tough enough, because it is still manipulation and deception. And but the fraud, the forgery, and this is really important because we have forgery in Richard's case, forgery with insurance, forgery with the cause of death, forgery of his death, forgery to cash in on his death. And he wasn't the only one. This was a network, a system that did it. And so anyone that could say, "Oh, how could that happen?" It was happening. It's still happening. And it's still happening now, right there in Houston, where voila, the refineries are, the oil theft is, and it's the same playbook. And they're using this sex cult, this, it's just so obvious. This playbook is so obvious. So here we go. And I should probably try to move this a little bit.
A search warrant last November. When I saw Green today outside of her court hearing, I asked her where those organs came from, and she told me, quote, "They were for me to eat for lunch."
Okay. Did you hear that? She. It's not a she. It's not a she. It's a monster he. Get it right. How can you, when this person that you're reporting on for fraud, for deception, right? And then you are actually reporting with the same type of spirit of deception. I don't want that spirit of deception. Give me the truth. This is a monster, and it's a he pretending to be a woman. Pretending to be a woman, a wife of one of these corpses that they abused because he was worth $1.2 million. I mean, do you understand? This monster operated in deception, and the media wants to report on it operating in deception. It's it really, am I the only one that gets, very offended with all the deception?
I don't have anything to say. I don't get out of my face. Did you know I don't have nothing to say. Did you know get out, I don't have nothing to say. Get out of my face.
How did you make an $800,000 bond?
Get out of my face. I need something to do, baby. Get you some shoes that look good.
Okay.
So this person, this monster, was on an $800,000 bond and made this $800,000 bond. Who paid that? Who paid that? And oh gosh.
We tried to ask Unique Green, formerly known as Michael Green, about the allegations leveled against.
Oh, there's the truth. There is the truth. But then they continue to play the game with this monster that has a network. In order, where were these, or, this investigation is going to be so huge, so revealing. They want to know what the organs were for, and then this monster says this.
She didn't answer, instead hurled insults.
Why her? It's him.
Documents?
Did your mother forge them? Did your mom forge them?
Where did that
Maybe your mom forged them. Come on out of the way, baby. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. They were for you to eat for lunch. Stupid. They were for you to eat.
Yeah. Okay. So that's enough. That's enough. That's all I can take. This is an individual, a monster that takes the bodies of victims and loved ones that died and exploits them and takes their organs and makes families wait for years before there's supposed to be a cremation. Let me tell you right now, do not cremate. This is my recommendation. If a loved one died, do not cremate. If you must cremate, you better make sure that you're standing right there at the furnace and watch it happen, no matter how painful it is, because I don't know what they're doing with these bodies. Well, we know what they're doing, and it's not right. It is. It is. It takes everything I have to what they did to my son's body. I just can't even imagine. And that's why they can't address it, because it is so satanic, so demonic. And whatever is left of him, I want. I want to know. Because they cannot get away with this. And this is connected to the oil thieves, the oil theft, the watchical fiscal, the money laundering, and all the other trafficking, the child trafficking. I would even say the abortions, the medical organ harvesting, the illegal, if they steal fuel, they steal organs, they steal babies, they steal children, they steal guns, they steal ammunition, They steal my son's body off of Fort Bliss and traffic him after exploiting his body for disposal in Mexico. They steal our lives. They're thieves. They are, it's just, thieves sounds too good for them. Thank you, Jane. So I'll answer these questions. That video, how they even show a little respect for that monster. When that monster gets $800,000 bond paid, and this is right after the Fauci, the mass murderer, because that's what he is. He's a mass murderer. Absolutely crimes against humanity to the massive scale. Massive scale. We have become so weak on justice. And justice is a gift. It's a grace. God's law word, every word that proceeds from the mouth of God is law. It's grace. It's a gift. It's good because God is good all the time. And anytime you hear anybody preach that we're not under the law, you need to say, Satan, get behind me. Satan, get behind me. Because what the Bible says is that it is a gift. We are gladly embracing, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not bear false witness. That every word that proceeds from the mouth of God, when we love God, it is an honor to have God's law be part of us, be part of every cell of our body. And we fight for it. We fight for justice. We fight for righteousness because it is freedom. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. And when you are weak, when you're weak on justice, you get monsters that steal organs, steal bodies, steal children, steal fuel, still, and then they have to manipulate and create strip joints and drugs to drug people out and sex cults to divert their attention, so that they can, I don't know, get so rich that they're on the Forbes magazine, but they have the most rotten lives. I mean, their lives are rotten. But they might have a fancy car or a fancy house or, a certain type of carpet or a certain kind of wallpaper. And I love all of that stuff. But this is, you get rich three ways, You either earn it, inherit it, or you steal it. And these are thieves. And they steal everything. And these are crimes against humanity. And this is the whole Fauci thing, the money, the awards. Oh, they love to give themselves awards. I am the best scientist, even though Nothing he did was based on science. Nothing. Because science says clean water, clean air, sunshine, love, worship. That's what makes you happy. That's what makes you healthy. Your psyche, not putting on a mask and keeping your kids from their grandparents and staying indoors in the dark and it's just and injecting whatever inside of you. It's just like the after Fauci, things have become very well, very clear that these people do not have our health in mind, our good health in mind. It's, I don't know, they want to, I'm a millionaire, I'm a billionaire, whatever. Tick a, a little cross by their name or something, or a little check by their name that they're gonna. They wouldn't want to cross by their name because they're like vampires. They see the cross and they'll just scream. Um, It's just, wow. I'm a little bit aggravated tonight. I'll admit it. I am just a little aggravated, a lot aggravated, because of this person making this $800 bond and then being so disgusting and so just, well, maybe it's good that everyone sees the monster that this Michael is. And ask, who is backing this person up? What does Michael know? What does Michael know that they want to keep hush hush, that they are pulling a Leilani Hart, We have to protect Leilani Hart no matter what happens because whose bedroom was she in? Not even that. Maybe an office, maybe whatever. Whatever. Um And that's not me saying it. That is so many El Pasoans, y'all. So many El Pasoans. Um, anyway, okay. Let's read some more here. Thank you, Laura, for coming on. Thank you for your prayers and your blessings. I really need them tonight. But we aren't living in communism. No. Mm-mm. Uh, uh, Permian Basin. Yeah. Um, I'm gonna have to listen to that. Some people say that name so I can say it better. I've been reading it all day long. The Alejandro de la Vega BBF friend Greg Abbott with Mario Campos, right? Yeah, with the CJNG. Yeah. Look to the Mormon Mafia clan, the Kingstons on energy fraud. Thank you so much for that tip. I know you've given me that tip before. Why do us parents have to sign a permission to let our children be treated by other pediatricians? I don't know. The letter says one thing, but the actions will always speak louder than the words. Yes, disgraceful. Sorry for your loss. Thank you, Jane. And all disabled veterans drive very fancy cars, all the mansions, the big houses, all our veterans that don't pay taxes on them. Look at Leilani Hart. Yep. May God bless you, Mrs. Halliday. Thank you so much. Permian. Permian. Okay, thank you. Permian. Yeah. So make sure that oh yeah, I wanted to play this before I leave for the night because it's so important. Let me start it over.
It's Patrick Cruz, yes, El Paso family. They're in the federal courthouse, literally, because his brother Brian married a Mayella. Cause Patrick's brother married a Mayella.
Explain the Mayellas. Explain the Mayellas.
El Paso matters, they knew, kept it hush-hush, in a quid pro quo, money rush.
And now we know
Courthouse
they chose
favors for a fake news show. They're bias, it's clear as you know. So they built a lie designed to divide, attacking Trump while the truth set aside. With a fake story, the false narrative grew, smearing Trump's name, deceiving me and you. Michael Mayella, the father pulling strings, Menange's judge, Gadarama's court. Cha-chings gave courthouse favors for a fake news show, so the media lets Mayella's names lay low. Cruz just had no ties, they clamored in the news, but they're in the chamber wearing courthouse shoes. And Michael Jr., the brother of the bride, interned at the DA's side, also with the dirty FBI leaker who tattletaled while at Walmart where the security
Kinda wet.
What the hell? So they built a lie designed to divide, attacking Trump while the truth set aside. With a fake story, the false narrative grew, smearing Trump's name, deceiving me and you. El Paso matters, more like El Paso hush, a quid pro quo, money rush. Courthouse favors for a fake news show. They're bias, it's clear as you know. With Bob Moore whispering lies in our ear, no truth, no integrity, year after year.
They're profiting off it.
Let the falsehoods fly, bury the truth while the real stories die. They painted Cruz's as a hater of Brown, a fake white supremacist just to drag Trump down. And Michael Jr., the brother of the bride, interned at the DA's side, with Esparza, Montoya, and Nieto. The FBI leak a tattletale. Whoa, and in Walmart where security failed. Where security failed. Security failed. Where security failed. Justice for Richard Halliday.
So, and it's also something that I have to repeat, that the Walmart mass shooting was orchestrated because Richard's reports, yes, they were blocked. Yes, they were blocked, right? But his reports triggered also audits and IG and all of that. And when he knew that they were being blocked because it was CPS complaints, also with the FBI, also with IG, also with CID, also with the 911 calls, that's when they knew. It was just, they orchestrated the Walmart mass shooting, and then they targeted him. They had to plan it because they had to plan a way to smear his name first, on record, right? To create a false record and to forge, really. These are forgers. These are people that write false history. And that has all been confirmed that matter of fact, they had to whitewash Richard's file now to correct, because it's been so exposed of all of their criminal forgery and false reporting, what was going on to smear Richard's name. And so, August 3rd is absolutely totally entwined with Richard. And then everything following was leading up to was the code red. The code red that was an operation to deny him um, his transfer requests and to take his life. So that's, yeah. And I can say that online because the evidence confirms it. And that's why we need to really keep going to get his body, to put the pressure on, to demand that we get our son's remains and get answers to what happened to his remains. So thank you so much. Please share all of this information. And if you haven't signed the petition, please sign the petition. That is really important for this pressure to be added to get our son's remains, get answers to what happened to his remains. Because let me tell you, I've heard everything. People have been sending me everything. Even at the beginning, they were saying the most horrible things about what happened to our son's remains. The lie, the reason why we knew we needed answers is because of Building 2479. His life was taken on Fort Bliss, and they have cameras everywhere, and they know what happened to his remains. So thank you so much. God bless you.